I'm back, baby. It's back, baby. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek Deep Thoughts Thin Coats with me, Phil the Glacial Geek. So back to doing some Deep Thoughts Thin Coats. I promised that when I was going to be doing this different content on Fridays, that Deep Thoughts Thin Coats would become part of it. And this is going to be back to it. So just kind of giving you my thoughts, going to ramble on about things in the hobby and things in the game. Right now, I don't quite have some thin coats, as you can see, because I'm still in the process of cleaning up this background. If you could see like any lower than this, you would be pretty shocked, and you would not be interested in watching that for the entirety of this video. So I am going to be doing the talking head segment here for a little bit, at least until I can get in and finish cleaning up here after that month of craziness that was the Sisters of Battle project. So more content is going to be coming out about that. I'm going to be showing you more about how I painted them, how they look, doing some other work on them, and just generally doing some more with the Sisters of Battle there. That project is not quite over, but I did accomplish the main goal of getting an army built and painted in 3 weeks for LVO. So that was a success. Moving on, we're going to see more information and more stuff coming out from it, because I'm super proud of what I did. And I think a lot of you guys would be interested in what's going on there. Today's topic, though, will not be about the Sisters of Battle. Today I will be doing my thoughts on what this book here does for the game here. So this is the chapter-approved Warzone Nachmund Grand Tournament packet. And it changes a lot. I really do think it changes a lot. And I think it changes things for the better for the game, and I think it makes things interesting, and I'm very excited what it means and what it shows for us going forward with Warhammer 40k. A lot of people talked about how it's just DLC, it's just the seasons for 40k, and quite frankly it is. It basically is the seasons for 40k. It is like a video game seasons where you download the pack and you get this next season's worth of play. And I think that's interesting. I think that's fun. I think we're coming from back in the day when you would come out with a new edition every 47 years or whatever it was, it felt like, and you'd be stuck with just the missions in that pack and you would have to go with that. And it became stale. It became old, and they would come out with some different books that might change things up. I do believe that right now we have a lot of books that are coming out very fast and very quick that make it hard to keep up with what's going on. I personally don't think that you should look at the rate at which the codexes are coming out, at the rate at which the different, like the Vigilus Alone and those kind of books are coming out. I believe that they got held up, and I think things got choked up with everything that was going on with COVID, with the way that the supply chains got all choked up, that they're right now, I think, trying to get through a lot of the books as fast as they can, because their original plan got messed up with everything that had been going on in the world. I think every industry, every single company has been affected by it in Games Workshop. For us to believe that Games Workshop would be any different would be ridiculous. So I think that the way things are coming out now is probably a bit too fast. I think it's faster than everyone wants it to, and I think it's faster than GW wants it to, honestly, even. I think they want to try to get things out. I think they wanted to try to push forth with the codexes to try to get them out faster than they have so far, and I think that just the way that the production schedule worked, the way things have worked out, they've started coming out with those campaign books, and in an order that I don't think they had really anticipated, really originally thought they would be coming out. So I think that the rate that you're seeing things change is less of an indication of how things are going to be going forward, and I think it's more just them playing catch up and trying to get back to where they wanted to, so they can continue forward with Warhammer, eventually coming out with 10th edition and whatever else they will going forward. I think that right now they're trying to play catch up and get back to where they feel they would be comfortable going with the game. But I do believe that this is an indication of how things will be going forward. I believe that, they've talked about it, that they're going to be coming out with new release, like the kind of like a revamp on this, hopefully every 6 to 12 months. And I think that's good. I think it keeps things interesting, changing up the missions that we're going to be playing in a competitive scene, keep people from kind of knowing the system so well that it becomes like too easy. I think that when you change things up, it makes you think about things differently. It allows them to emphasize different aspects, like they have with the Age of Sigmar, where they emphasize very much so about different aspects. This, I believe, 40k is going to be less less directed in that. Like, you're not going to have like the Year of the Beast kind of thing that they have with AOS. But I do believe that they've done some things to really emphasize different gameplays and different ways of building lists. And I think that's interesting. I think that's really good going forward. I think it'll be fun to make you rethink your list. I mean, I'm going to have to rethink my Dark Angels, how they work. Previously, I had my list that would work. I had my system in place. I had, Stubborn Defiance. I had Oath of Moment, and then I would fill in the rest as I went along in the game with using the secondaries often from the missions, which are now gone. And now I can only choose one, and I think that's fair. I as much as I would like to be able to do Oath of Moment and Stubborn Defiance every game, I do believe that going forward, this is going to be a more equitable way of playing it, where 2 of your missions do have to come from the book, and only 1 can come from each of your codexes, despite having access to multiple codexes. And I think that's good. I think that's a good way to put it and a good way to do it going forward. I believe that making you choose and figure things out is a more equitable way of playing the game, like I've said. Of interest, though, is the fact that they've taken the secondaries out of each of the missions, so that now you kind of have to have a gameplay going into any kind of situation without even worrying about the missions, without being able to fall back on, I've got 2, and then I'll just choose whatever the mission one is and go forward from there. You don't have that option anymore. That's taken away. So now you only have the base ones that come with the packet here, and you have the ones from your codex. And to me, that really shows that it allows you to kind of build lists and build a gameplay and build a game plan from list creation with secondaries in mind, because now you know what you're going to be facing on secondaries. You know what you're going to do. So when you build your list, it better be with secondaries in mind. It better be with that understanding that I am going to have to play with what's in the book. I don't have these mission secondaries to fall back on. And that makes it very difficult. Not difficult. It makes it very interesting from a strategic standpoint, that you can't just like throw together a list and hope that it might work with specific missions. It's going to have to work with every mission, because your secondaries are going to be chosen basically before you even hit the table. There may be situations that kind of skew that. Like if you go up against Grey Knights, and you don't have any psychers, you're probably going to take purge the or what is it, the one where you're killing psychers for points. I've got the book right here. I may as well look it up while I am talking to you. Abhor the Witch. Because at that point it really makes sense to really do that. But generally speaking, you're going to have an understanding of what your army is going to be doing in every single game right from the get-go, because you're not going to have to worry about the missions you're playing. But of interest, with that in mind, each of the missions now really feel like very different bespoke missions in and of themselves. And I like that. I think that's going to make it fun. I think it's going to make it interesting. You still have the basic system of hold 1, hold 2, hold more, hold 2, hold 3, hold more that you have. But now they are giving you 4, 8, and 12 points versus 5, 10, and 15 points. So no longer are you just going to be able to sit there on those 2 objectives, score your points for the mission, and call it a day. You're now going to have to worry about this new primary, secondary that they have. Ways to score points in mission that changes per mission. So some of them might ask you to be killing things. Some of you may be asking to hold things. Some of them are asking you to do actions to score them. So you have to have units that can do actions for you. It's a really interesting way of making each of the missions unique in and of themselves, and not just different because of placement of objectives and deployment zones. It really makes you have to face the fact that each of your missions, you got to know them. You have to know what you're doing and how you're going to face those. There's a much more of an emphasis on objective secured units. There's a lot more of an emphasis on troop units, and there's a lot more of an emphasis on having units that can do actions. And with that in mind, it's going to have to affect the way you are building your list. If you don't have units who are there to do actions, if you don't have units that have the objective secured ability, if you don't have units that can go out and do what you need them to for each of these missions, you're going to be on the back foot going into every mission. And that's important to keep in mind, because no longer is it okay for you to just sit back and shoot and kill. You have to be able to do different objectives. And They had kind of started to do that with 9th edition in general, and even when they came out with the other GT pack. But this one, very much so, emphasizes all of those things. They've also made it where, for the secondary, some of the secondaries, like with retrieve Nachmund data as opposed to RND instead of ROD, what you have to do is you have to go in and it really puts an emphasis on larger units, puts an emphasis on troop units, and makes it more difficult to get. So I recently have played the game with smaller units, and you suddenly are now worried about that roll when you make that roll to try to see if you got it, to get those points. If the RNG is not with you in RND, you're not going to be scoring things. And there's ways to go about it. Like if you have a troop squad of 5 or more, or you have a regular squad of 6 or more, you can guarantee that you're going to get that roll. And that's what I think they want you to do. I think armies like Genestealer Cult are going to do very well with RND, because they can have 5-man troop units that can deep strike. And suddenly now it's very easy for them to pop up, score their points, and they're cheap enough that they can. That's all they need to do. That's all they can do. So you have the ability to have those Action Monkey units to do it. I think that small Action Monkey units are not going to be as useful for you anymore. Where it used to be, you could just drop that 1-man unit behind enemy lines, be completely unobtrusive, and score your points for you. It doesn't work anymore. Now you need some of the secondaries ask for you to have units of a certain size for them to count. So like engage in all fronts, you have to have at least 3 models in a unit for it to count, or for it to be a vehicle or monster. But still, you have to have 3 models in the unit for regular troops. So you can no longer have just that 1-man unit that's just running around scoring you points for that. You got to be able to do what you need to do. So the big takeaway from this, how are you going to win in this? I don't know. I think there are probably some people out there that do know already. I think that you're going to find ways to work with your army going forward. But what this does is it makes you really rethink how you build your armies. It really makes you think how you play the games. And it really makes you think about, it changes things up, and it changes up the way everything operates. And I love that. I actually love that, because it makes me start to think about the game again. It makes me think about my list. It makes me think about how I'm going to handle different matchups. And I think that's the fun part about the match play system in 40K. You can still do anything you want. You can play with the old GT pack if you want. You can play with no GT pack if you want, when you're just playing with your friends. But I think from a competitive standpoint, keeping things interesting, shaking things up, changing the way the game plays, if not inherently, then just in its, in parts of it, it really makes you think. And every time you have to think, it becomes an interesting part of the game, because the second things become clockwork, the second things become just rote, and the second things you stop thinking about stuff, it becomes less fun. It becomes less interesting. I guess maybe there are some people out there who just want to win it, and they would prefer not to have to think too much about it. But even most people, even most top competitive players, they like to think about things. They like to brainstorm. They like to hash things out, and they like to keep on their toes to try to find new ways of going forward. And I think that this book is a good indicator that that's how it's going to be in the match play competitive scene going forward. And the fact that they are emphasizing different things, like changing up, only objective secured units are allowed to walk off of objectives and still hold them. Only troop units can do certain actions, or certain troop units get benefits for doing certain actions. Only certain size squads get to do certain actions, or certain size squads get benefits for doing different actions. It all makes you rethink how you build your list. It all makes you rethink how you're going to play the game. And that makes it fun, and that makes it interesting, and that keeps you on your toes, which is what is fun about this. Because the second it just becomes rote, the second it just becomes, too much like the same, it gets boring. And you end up, as opposed to having to find your own way to make things interesting, I think that shaking things up will make it interesting in and of itself. And again, if you are not interested in doing the competitive scene, if you are happy with the way the old system works, play it. Absolutely play it. That's the way it's always been. You can play whatever game you want to play. But I think that for those people who go out there and play in tournaments, those who play a lot of games, who do a lot of the match play stuff, then that this system that they've got going on here is going to be beneficial for the scene, beneficial for the game, and keep you on your toes and keep you thinking and make you want to do different things. I don't know. I don't see any downside to this kind of stuff. I know you have to buy a book every couple months or so. But if you are not going out there doing tournaments, then you don't have to buy a book every couple months. You could just do whatever you want with what books you have, and then pick them up when you decide to get into it. So if you decide that you want to try to spend the next competitive cycle in the scene, then go pick up the book or not, and just play things the way you want to. That's always been the beauty of 40K, is that you can do it however you want to. And when I talk about these benefits, when I talk about what goes well for this, what I'm thinking in my mind is the person going out to tournaments, the person who's going to their local game store to do tournaments, the person who's doing into leagues, the person who is traveling to bigger games and stuff. Now that we've got bigger tournaments opening up again, those are the kind of people that I think are going to see the most benefit from this kind of stuff, because they're the ones that are going to get the most use out of these books, and they're the ones that are going to want to do it. So, I do get it. I do understand, and I do hear that people are saying, it's like, I get one game in every 3 months or something like that, and it's like, why do I want to do another book? And honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't get another book. I wouldn't get the book. Or if someone else is going to pick up the book, just play with what they have. You can find the secondaries easy enough and do that. Absolutely you should. Absolutely you should. But if you are going to be playing in a lot of games, if you have your weekly game that you've got going on at the local game store, if you've got your monthly tournaments that you're going to at the local game store, if you're traveling to different events or things like that, then, I would absolutely pick up the book. I would absolutely do it. I think that encouraging this kind of system is, in my mind, beneficial. I do like it. I think that encouraging them to try to rethink things, rethink how the game plays, and rethink how the missions play is going to keep things fun and interesting going forward as we keep going through it. Because I think right now we're, a lot of the stuff that they've been trying to pull out has been choked up because of COVID. It has been choked up because of the supply chain situation out there. So hopefully this will keep things going in a fun and interesting way. So that's just my thoughts, my rambles here. A little bit of more deep thought, no thin coats on what I've been doing this. Like I said, I've played a couple games with this. I haven't gotten any tournaments with it yet, but I have played some like more competitive games with it, and I've obviously been looking through it and seeing what's going on, and I find it interesting. I find it fun, and it does mean you do need to read the missions more than you had to in the previous ones, because you've got to check out all those little bits and pieces that are going to be changing, like being able to step off of objectives, but only if you have objectives secured, or getting benefits for things. Like, make sure you know what's going on there. Don't assume that you knew because of the way things worked in the last book. Make sure that each time you play the game that you check on the specific mission that you're playing and read it through and understand it, and don't skip over things just because you think you know. So that's my thoughts on what's going on with the Nachmund book there. So go out there, enjoy it, have fun, and then I'll see you guys the next time it comes out again. And we'll figure out where we stand once again. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. If you have, why don't you like the video? Why don't you subscribe down below? I'm trying to remember to try to promote my videos and promote what I'm doing a little bit more, because it does help. Everything does help there. Ringing that bell, liking the show, easy for me to say, liking the video, sharing it with some friends, all of it helps. All of it keeps it going. And I really do enjoy the community that we've got here and everything that we've got. So let me know what you think about the new Nachmund missions, how it's made you rethink how you're going to play. Obviously, if you have new codexes coming out, it's going to make you rethink how you're going to play anyway. But trying to figure out how you can play the missions and not get shot off the board by a Tau rail rifle, or not have Custodes just bully you on the objectives. Tell me how you've been changing it up and how you're going to be confronting all of these things going forward with the new missions in mind. Leave it down below and we can continue the discussion, and hopefully we can learn some things from each other. I think it'll be great. So, again, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I've been Phil, the Glacial Geek as always, and until next time, stay safe and have fun.